Hello and welcome to this YouTube tutorial on static variables. In this video, we will be discussing what a static variable is and how it can be used in C#. For today, we will be working on one page application that does mimic the database functionality where we could add a new student, search for a student by their ID, and then show the student list. So let's get started. We will be working on a startup project here. So this is my startup project, and this is my first page that I will be seeing whenever I run this project. For now, we could see that we have a title under name title, and then we do have two entries that, but we cannot see it here since we do have this specific probability that we set it to false, so we cannot see it here. And then we do have the three buttons. Each button does have a name and does have a clicked associated with it, where we could see this function in my C# file. We could see three functions. Each one of these are associated with one button. For now, if I click a button, an alert will be displaying, telling me what this functionality needed to be done. And the last thing that we have here is a label that called notify label. If we add a student, for example, I need to let the user that a student has been added. Some small messages I could add using this specific label. So this is C#, this is XAML file, and then we do have one class which called a student class that does have an ID, a name, and email. I've created a auto probability for the ID, name, and email. In my constructor, I'm requiring whenever you created an object for my student, give me the ID, give me the name, and give me the email. Okay. So let's get started by creating an object of my student in my main page.xaml.c#. Student, defining the type S1, is going to be equal to new student, and then my constructor will be complaining. Let's see what's going to need. It's going to need an integer 1 and a name Dana, and then an email d@gmail.com. Okay, now we satisfy the constructor by passing these three things: ID, name, and email. Let's create another student, for example S2, that does have I'm giving the whenever who creates an object for the student who has the ability to put whatever ID they need, they could put it the same as the other ID. So I could put it 1, I could put it 100, 1000. There is not any limitation that I could go by setting up my ID. So it's up to the student to initialize the ID. Okay. Now, for example, I need now to, in the message, when I click the search button, show me the ID for the student 1, and show me maybe the name or the email for student 1 and student 2. We could just string interpolation here, $, and then S1. We could then get the ID probability. For now, let's get the email, and then for S2 dot email as well. This is a straightforward operation that we could do. We are initializing a new student. We are giving a student an ID, a name, and an email address. For sure, whenever I click on search clicked, it's gonna show me again an alert, but we've added to show me the first student email and the second student email. We could see here d@gmail.com, the first student and the second student email. Now, let's think about it. Is it really a good idea to give the student the freedom to choose their ID? For example, at Sheridan College, whenever you registered as a student, Sheridan will assign an ID for you, and you cannot change it any time throughout the lifetime of you being a student at Sheridan. But here we are giving the student the ability to give me the ID, which doesn't really make any sense, since I aim to give each student in my list different ID than the other student. But I cannot control this now here. The student is assigning any ID to them, and then if I'm looking to search for a student for a specific ID, I need only to see one student. I don't need to see two students that does have the similar ID. Because I'm considering here the ID is the primary key for my list. A primary key, which means something unique specifically for this specific object. Excuse me. Okay, so I will be preventing my student of passing the ID. I will give you the ID. Okay, I will change it in the constructor. Do not give me the ID. I don't want to give you the ID. I will give you, the class is responsible to set the ID for me. Private integer equal to integer, for example, given ID equal to 0, for example. We could put it equal to 0, or just like this, since the default value default value is equal to 0. Now I could use this private variable that is related to this specific class here in my constructor. And now I'm assigning my property to this specific ID. Does this change something for me? I could still go here. I'm not able to, for example, give the S1 an ID by passing through the constructor, but I still have the ability to access the property and change the ID. For example, like this. I cannot do this here. I should do it inside a function or inside the constructor for my main page. So I could change the ID for my student 1 to equal 20. But we've just said we want to give the user or the student here the ability to change their ID. So we do have something called a read-only property. You could see your ID, but you are not allowed to change your ID. Now, okay, I'm preventing my student to assign an ID for them or to change the ID. You could see your ID, it's okay, get your ID, see it, read it, that's okay, don't change it. But looking at the student class, all the students that I'm creating their ID gonna be equal to 0. How we could save the state for this variable? For example, what I mean about saving the state. For example, for student 1, assign the ID equals 0 and then increment it, and then for student 2, makes the ID equal to 1, and so on. Can I just write ++ here? And then maybe, is this gonna help me? Let's see. Let's run the application and see what S1 ID is gonna be. The ID, we said it's read only, so I could absolutely reach the ID probability. Let's rerun the app and see. Okay, now let's click the button search. We will be seeing that my student 1 ID is similar to my student 2 ID, even if I increment the given ID here. Because given ID, private variable, it's something related specifically for this specific object. So if I created S1, the value for this one is going to be equal 1. My S2 does not know about this specific variable, so it's going to be as well 0 and then incremented to 1. That's why we do have some functionality, some specific type called static variable that will be saving the value for my private variable. Look at this slide here. We said the value that we were given ID, it's something specific related to each object. But by making this one a static variable, this one gonna be related to the class itself and shared between all the objects, like this one here. Okay? By giving this specific word here, let's see the changes. And then we will walk through the logic step by step how my object does know about the previous value for my static variable. Waiting for this one. So my search button should show me the S1 ID and the S2 ID. Search. Now each student does have a different ID than the other one. That's cool, right? Let's see how the structure for my static ID is working. For my static variable. I'm starting the application. Okay. The default value we said it's equal to 0, right? Let me open the student class here. So I'm starting the application, the default value is equal to 0. Okay. This variable is related to the class itself, which means it's shared between all the objects that we'll be creating here. I'm creating a student object S1, and then I'm calling the constructor by passing the name and the email. And then I've changed the value for my static variable here. I've incremented, so now it's equal to 1. And then I'm assigned it to this specific student ID. Now then again, I'm creating student 2. I'm calling the constructor by the name and email. I'm changing the same value, the same one. It's equal 1, it was equal to 1. I will keep the same one, the same value, and then increment it, which is going to be equal to 2, and then using this value to assign it to my student 2 probability. And this what makes my static variable saved the value and shared between all the objects in my student class. I wish that's help you understand the concept of static variable. Don't forget this slide, it's very important, where we have the static variable that's shared and its value, it's shared between all the objects. While the private variable without a static, it's going to be only to the class itself. Hope you enjoyed this session. See you later while we continue doing the other functionality for this small application. Thank you for watching. Bye.